Seniors, 5 warning signs your gut is leaking toxins into your bloodstream. Dr. Raymond's Senior Wellness. Let me ask you something, and I want you to really think about this before you answer. Have you been feeling off lately? Not dramatically sick, not rushed to the hospital, just off? Maybe you're more tired than you used to be. Maybe your joints ache in ways your doctor keeps brushing off. Maybe your mind feels foggy, like you're thinking through thick cotton, or your belly feels bloated and uncomfortable no matter what you eat. And you've been told it's just aging. You've been told, well, you're getting older, what do you expect? I'm here today to tell you that answer is not good enough, and it may actually be wrong. Because what I'm going to share with you in this video could be the missing piece of the puzzle that nobody, not your primary care doctor, not your specialist, and certainly not the pharmaceutical commercials you see on television, nobody has sat down and explained to you clearly. And it involves something happening deep inside your body right now that is silently affecting your energy, your brain, your joints, your immune system, and your overall quality of life. I'm Dr. Raymond, and welcome to Senior Wellness, the channel dedicated to helping men and women over 60 live longer, stronger, and sharper than they ever thought possible. If you're new here, I want you to hit that subscribe button right now, because every single week we go deep into the science of aging. Not the watered-down version, but the real stuff that actually makes a difference. And today's topic is one of the most important ones we've ever covered. We're talking about something called leaky gut, or in medical terms, intestinal permeability. And specifically, we're talking about what happens when your gut starts leaking toxins directly into your bloodstream. Now, I know that phrase, leaking toxins into your bloodstream, sounds alarming. It's supposed to, because this is a real phenomenon that research is increasingly connecting to dozens of chronic health conditions that plague people in their 60s, 70s, and 80s. And the most frightening part? Most people who have it don't even know, because the warning signs don't look like stomach problems at first. They look like something else entirely. So stay with me through this entire video, because by the end, you're going to walk away understanding your body in a way that most people your age never get the chance to. And you may finally have answers to symptoms you've been struggling with for years. Let's start with the foundation. What is actually happening inside your gut, and why does it matter so much more as we age? Your digestive tract is not just a tube that processes food. It is the most complex immune organ in your entire body. Lining the inside of your intestines is a wall made up of millions of tiny cells pressed tightly together. These cells are held in place by structures called tight junctions. Think of them like the grout between bathroom tiles. When everything is healthy, these tight junctions keep the good stuff in, nutrients, water, beneficial compounds, and keep the bad stuff out, bacteria, undigested food particles, and toxic byproducts of digestion. But here's what happens as we age. The lining of the gut naturally becomes more vulnerable. The beneficial bacteria that used to keep our gut wall strong and well-maintained start to decline. The mucus layer that protects the gut wall gets thinner, and when you add in decades of stress, processed foods, antibiotic use, alcohol, anti-inflammatory medications, and the natural drop in stomach acid that happens after 60, those tight junctions start to loosen. They start to develop gaps, and when those gaps appear, things that should stay inside the gut start slipping through into the bloodstream. Bacterial toxins, undigested food proteins, inflammatory molecules, directly into your blood. Your immune system, which patrols your bloodstream constantly, sees these particles and panics. It launches an immune response. And it keeps launching immune responses over and over every time more particles slip through. This creates a state of low-grade, chronic, systemic inflammation. Not the kind of inflammation you can feel like a swollen ankle, but the silent, slow-burning kind that quietly damages organs, joints, blood vessels, and brain tissue over months and years. And here is where it becomes absolutely critical for seniors specifically. Researchers have a term, inflammaging, a combination of inflammation and aging. They have discovered that this persistent low-grade inflammation driven by leaky gut is one of the most powerful drivers of accelerated aging and age-related disease. We're talking about connections to cognitive decline, cardiovascular disease, type 2 diabetes, autoimmune conditions, chronic fatigue, and more. So now that you understand the mechanism, let's talk about the 5 warning signs. These are signs that your gut may already be leaking, signs that show up in places you might never associate with your digestive system. The first warning sign is brain fog and memory issues that seem to be getting worse. Now I know what you're thinking. You might say, Dr. Raymond, I'm in my 70s. A little forgetfulness is normal. And yes, some mild changes in memory and processing speed are part of normal aging. But I am not talking about forgetting where you put your keys once in a while. I'm talking about a kind of mental cloudiness that lingers throughout the day. A feeling that your thoughts are slow, that you can't concentrate the way you once could, that words slip away from you mid-sentence, that you read a paragraph and can't remember a thing you just read. When the gut is leaking, those bacterial toxins and inflammatory compounds that enter the bloodstream don't stay in the body. They cross what's called the blood-brain barrier, especially in older adults whose blood-brain barrier is also naturally more permeable. Once inside, they trigger inflammation in the brain itself. Researchers call this neuroinflammation. And neuroinflammation is directly linked to cognitive decline, depression, anxiety, and early memory loss. There is even growing evidence connecting gut permeability to the early development of Alzheimer's disease. So if you have been experiencing mental fog that your doctor is dismissing as just aging, I want you to consider the possibility that your gut may be contributing to what's happening in your brain. These two organs, your gut and your brain, are connected by a superhighway called the gut-brain axis, and when one suffers, the other often follows. The second warning sign is unexplained joint pain and body-wide achiness that moves around. Many seniors come to me describing a kind of pain that isn't localized. It's not just one bad knee or one arthritic hip. It's a general all-over achiness. Some days it's the shoulders, some days it's the hands, some days it feels like the whole body is inflamed. And often, their rheumatologist finds no clear diagnosis, or the diagnosis is something like fibromyalgia or early seronegative arthritis. Here is what I want you to understand. When your gut is leaking bacterial toxins called lipopolysaccharides, LPS for short, into your bloodstream, your immune system creates antibodies against them. But here's the terrible irony. Those antibodies sometimes attack your own tissues by mistake. This is called molecular mimicry. Your immune system thinks it's fighting foreign invaders, but it ends up attacking your joints, your connective tissue, your muscles. The result is inflammation that shows up as pain, stiffness, and swelling throughout the body. Multiple studies have now found that people with conditions like rheumatoid arthritis and fibromyalgia have significantly higher levels of gut permeability than healthy controls. This doesn't mean leaky gut causes every joint problem, but it absolutely means that if you have unexplained, wandering, whole-body pain, the gut is a very serious suspect and deserves investigation. The third warning sign, and this one surprises people the most, is chronic fatigue that sleep doesn't fix. I'm not talking about the normal tiredness you feel after a long day or a poor night's sleep. I'm talking about a deep, bone level exhaustion that follows you from morning to night, that doesn't improve much no matter how long you sleep, that makes even simple tasks feel like they require enormous effort. And again, your doctor may have run blood tests, found nothing significant, and told you it's just part of getting older. But here's what's happening at the cellular level when your gut is leaking. Your immune system, constantly responding to the particles sneaking through the gut wall, is working overtime every single day around the clock. Immune activation is enormously energy consuming. Your body is essentially fighting an invisible, never-ending battle, and that uses up metabolic resources that your cells need for everything else, for thinking, for moving, for feeling alive. On top of that, gut inflammation disrupts the production of mitochondria, the tiny energy factories inside every one of your cells. When mitochondrial function declines, so does your energy at the most fundamental level. There is also a direct connection between gut bacteria and the production of serotonin and dopamine, the brain chemicals that regulate not just mood, but motivation and vitality. Up to 90% of your body's serotonin is actually manufactured in your gut. When the gut is inflamed and its bacterial balance is disrupted, serotonin production drops. And when serotonin drops, you feel flat, unmotivated, and exhausted in a way that goes beyond physical tiredness. If you have been living with this kind of fatigue and no one has been able to explain it, please take this warning sign seriously. The fourth warning sign is skin problems. Rashes, eczema, rosacea, or a dull, inflamed complexion that doesn't respond well to creams or topical treatments. The skin is your body's largest organ, and it is one of the most sensitive mirrors of internal inflammation. When your gut is leaking toxins into the bloodstream, your body tries to eliminate some of those toxins through the skin, because the skin is an elimination organ just like the kidneys and lungs. The result is inflammation that shows up as redness, rashes, itching, dryness, and accelerated aging of the skin. There is a well-established connection in dermatology between gut health and skin conditions. Eczema, psoriasis, and rosacea have all been linked in studies to disrupted gut microbiome and increased intestinal permeability. In fact, some dermatologists are now saying that treating the skin without treating the gut is like mopping up a flood without turning off the faucet. You might get temporary relief, but the root cause keeps driving the problem. For seniors, this matters even more because the skin becomes thinner and more reactive with age anyway. And when you combine aging skin with the internal inflammatory burden of a leaky gut, you get skin that looks and feels far older than it needs to. If you've been struggling with skin issues that don't respond to topical treatments, your gut deserves a serious look. The fifth warning sign, and perhaps the most overlooked, is increased sensitivity to foods you used to eat with no problem. This one is incredibly common among seniors, and it is one of the most telltale signs of intestinal permeability. You may have noticed over recent years that foods you've eaten your whole life are suddenly causing problems. Bloating after meals that didn't used to cause any issues, discomfort after eating certain proteins, a feeling of heaviness or nausea, loose stools or constipation that seems to be triggered by things you never had trouble with before. Here is why this happens. When the gut wall is compromised, large food particles, proteins that haven't been fully broken down, slip through the gut barrier into the bloodstream. Your immune system, encountering these foreign proteins, mounts a reaction against them. Over time, you develop what are called food sensitivities, not full allergies, but low-grade immune reactions to specific foods. And because this is happening at an immune level rather than a digestive level, the reactions can show up hours after eating, which makes them hard to trace. Gluten is often a major player here, as are dairy proteins and certain legumes. But the important thing to understand is that the food is not always the core problem. The damaged gut wall is. Eliminating foods temporarily can reduce the immune burden and give the gut a chance to heal. But addressing the gut barrier itself is what creates lasting change. Now, let me take a moment here to speak to you directly, from one person who cares deeply about your health to another. I understand that many of you watching this have been dismissed. You've sat in doctors' offices describing symptoms that are real, that are affecting your daily life, and you've been handed a prescription or told to come back in 6 months. You've been told that what you're experiencing is just aging. I want you to know that dismissal is not a diagnosis. And the fact that something is common among older adults does not mean it's inevitable. And it certainly doesn't mean it can't be addressed. The gut has a remarkable capacity for healing. It regenerates its lining cells faster than almost any other tissue in the body. With the right support, leaky gut can improve significantly. And when it does, many people report dramatic improvements in their energy, their mental clarity, their joint pain, and their overall sense of well-being. So what does supporting gut healing actually look like? I want to be practical with you. First, one of the most powerful things you can do is reduce the inflammatory load on your gut. That means significantly reducing or eliminating ultra-processed foods, refined sugars, and industrial seed oils. Things like corn oil, soybean oil, and canola oil, which are heavily oxidized and directly damage the gut lining. It also means being thoughtful about alcohol, which is one of the most potent gut wall disruptors we know of. Second, fiber is your gut wall's best friend. Prebiotic fiber from foods like garlic, onions, leeks, asparagus, and green bananas feeds the beneficial bacteria that produce short-chain fatty acids, particularly something called butyrate, which is literally the primary fuel source for the cells of your gut lining. When those cells have enough butyrate, they stay healthy, they maintain their tight junctions, and they keep the barrier strong. Third, fermented foods are extraordinarily valuable. Foods like plain yogurt with live cultures, kefir, sauerkraut, kimchi, and miso introduce beneficial bacteria that help restore the diversity and balance of the gut microbiome. Research has shown that even small daily servings of fermented foods can meaningfully increase microbial diversity within weeks. Fourth, and this is something many seniors overlook, managing stress is not optional when it comes to gut health. The gut-brain axis runs both ways. Chronic psychological stress triggers the release of cortisol and other stress hormones that directly increase gut permeability. Practices like gentle walking in nature, deep breathing exercises, prayer, meditation, or even simply spending time with people you love have measurable positive effects on gut barrier function. This is not soft advice. This is biology. Fifth, if you are taking non-steroidal anti-inflammatory medications regularly, things like ibuprofen or naproxen, it's worth having a conversation with your doctor about this. These medications are well documented to increase intestinal permeability. I understand that pain management is a real need, but there may be strategies that provide relief without further damaging the gut. And finally, certain nutrients have been specifically studied for their ability to support gut barrier integrity. L-glutamine, the amino acid, is the primary fuel for intestinal lining cells and has been used therapeutically for gut healing. Zinc is critical for tight junction maintenance. Vitamin D, which the majority of seniors are deficient in, has been shown to directly regulate the proteins that form those tight junctions. And collagen, whether from bone broth or a good supplement, provides the structural proteins that the gut lining and surrounding connective tissue need to repair themselves. I want to be clear, I am not telling you to abandon your medical care. I am telling you to add to it, to become an advocate for your own health, to look at these 5 warning signs and ask yourself honestly whether any of them resonate with your experience. And if they do, to bring this conversation to your doctor, to ask about gut permeability testing, to explore the nutritional and lifestyle strategies that support gut healing, and to refuse to accept it's just aging as a final answer. You have worked hard your entire life. You deserve to feel well. You deserve energy, mental clarity, freedom from unnecessary pain, and the kind of vitality that lets you enjoy the people and the life you love. That is what senior wellness is all about, and that is exactly why I created this channel. If this video gave you something valuable, a new perspective, an explanation for something you've been experiencing, or simply a sense that someone is paying attention to your health in a real way, please give it a thumbs up. It helps more seniors find this information when they need it most. And if you haven't already subscribed, please do that now and ring the notification bell. Because next week, we are going to go even deeper into specific protocols for healing the gut lining. The exact foods, the exact supplements, the exact lifestyle changes that the research supports for men and women over 60. And if you have a question, a symptom you'd like me to address, or a topic you want me to cover, leave it in the comments below. I personally read them. This community matters to me, and your health matters to me. Until next time, this is Dr. Raymond, reminding you that aging is not a disease. Take good care of yourselves. 23 minutes.